Hello everybody, this is Danny back from Deepsouth Homestead on Porch Time today, guys. Just doesn't seem like December. I mean, it's warm, it's muggy, it hasn't been cold. I'm still looking at southern field peas out here that the frost bit the tops of them at one time. Hasn't been cold since. I mean, they're green, they got new growth. Of course, the deer keep coming in, nibbling them off, but it's not warm enough for them to actually take off and make peas, but the plant still tries to grow. We leave them for, for the deer and for the cows, because I pull them up periodically and feed them to the cows. And the kale is doing fantastic. The only thing that bothers me is with all the warmth, the aphids and the bugs will get started in it, and then it'll just destroy it. It's been good for our potatoes growing in amongst them. We've been harvesting some potatoes. If y'all have been watching the videos, you've seen that. But guys, I mean, I'm sitting here. It's partly cloudy and warm, and it's here it is at the end of December. It's just crazy. We have had no measurable rainfall now in 6 weeks. They're saying by the end of this week we might get some heavy weather in here. I don't know. But that's the part about the grand solar minimum I've been talking about. And I got to quit using that word. I'll explain all this in a minute. Is that everything is in extremes. I've told y'all it's not about people keep saying the mini ice age. Guys, it's not about everything's going to freeze over. It's about weather extremes. When it's warm, it's going to be warm. It's going to be warmer than it normally should be. When it's cold, it's going to be colder than it normally should be. When it's wet, it's going to be wetter than it normally should be. When it's dry, it's going to be drier than it normally should be. Everything is in extremes. That's because during these types of things that happens in history, you go back and look, they had floods, they had famines, they had pestilences, they had all these kind of things that happened, viruses and all this kind of stuff that happened during these times. And it's just the way it is. I mean, we can't change it. It is what it is. And man he's trying to capitalize on it, and with weather manipulation and geoengineering and all these kind of things. And these are words I'm fixing to tell you. My videos are fixing to change. I don't have a choice. Not everything is for everybody. Let me say that. We're fixing to go into what's called guys, I'm really having to watch my words today, and I'm probably going to get in trouble for what I'm already said, but we're fixing to go into what's called the Great Transition, better known as the reset. I won't be making these type videos anymore, probably. Come January the 5th, I will talk in some riddles today, so you have to stay with me. Come January the 5th, 5-7, I'm going to say the number 7, you'll figure it out, is going to be online. My understanding is it's supposed to start going online globally. Well, when that happens, everything as we know it will cease to exist the way it existed. Because I'm trying to figure out how to say this. AI has become so intelligent now that if I speak in a riddle and another YouTuber picks up on that and he uses the same riddle, and another YouTuber picks up on it and he uses the same riddle, AI is smart enough now that it can decipher that, and it goes in and it will figure out what you're talking about, and you'll get a strike on your channel for it. And you can have your channel taken away from you, demonetized, all that kind of stuff. They do all that. That's very discouraging because that tells me that freedom of speech no longer exists. I can no longer say the honest truth about anything. I'm not trying to say that that we're going to have to lie. I'm going to say we're going to have to try to figure another way to get the message out. And the bottom line is this: with the intelligence of AI, you're not dealing with humans anymore. You're not dealing with flesh and blood. Now, this is actually biblical. You're not dealing with flesh and blood. If I was dealing with a human, I could outsmart them. I'm not worried about that. You can outsmart a human. But when it comes to intelligence, you're dealing with powers that are beyond human reasoning. These things can compute stuff at such a high algorithm, billions of things per second, and analyze it. Because I did a video way back, it's been a couple of years ago, about the IoT and AI in the next couple of years. I said would be merging, which was the Internet of Things and AI beginning to merge. And the Internet of Things is actually the gathering of all the data of stuff and being able to put it into one area. I'm just having to use certain words, and then AI has the ability to digest what IoT did. And when these two, did the video talking about when these two come together, that's when we have to worry. Well, they are now coming together, and we're now in 2022 going to go into a period of history we've never been in before. You will not be able to hide anything from this point forward. You will not be able to say what you want to say and get away with it. Your banking is all going to be tracked beyond what you even comprehend. I've been in contact with some people that are pretty high-ranking people, and they also warned me. Let's just go ahead and say it. They said, Danny, you're wise to do certain things that you do, but understand your time is limited. You're not going to be able to say this anymore. You're not going to be able to say that anymore, because you're under heavy scrutiny by a radar that's really watching you. And I've always kind of known that, but when you have people actually send you stuff and tell you that, hey, this is where you are. I'm in this line of work, and I monitor this type of stuff. You just have to stop and think for a moment. And guys, I love making videos. I love warning people about things when I hear about them. I just love being honest and telling you if someone's trying to take advantage of us and all that kind of stuff. I loved, I felt like that was my calling. And I really have talked to the Lord about this. And the Lord's led me to like Jeremiah. Jeremiah warned his people, the nation of Israel, countless times about what they were doing wrong and not keeping the laws and the Sabbaths and stuff like this. And he told him, he says, look, if you don't do these things, the Lord's going to punish us. And then it happened. The Lord punished them. It sent them into Babylonian captivity for 70 years, and they began to panic. And what do we do now, Jeremiah? What do we do? And Jeremiah went before the Lord, and the Lord gave him an answer. I think I've talked about this on several videos before, but the Lord told him, says, build houses, plant gardens, mingle with the people, marry, obey the kingdom that you're under, as long as it doesn't go against God's rules, and you're going to be here for 70 years. Well, that's kind of where I'm at, guys. I mean, I've told y'all before. I told y'all a couple of years ago, that that the Lord had shown me through Scripture that He'd lifted His hand off of this country because of its iniquity. Its cup of iniquity had become full, and God said, "I'm going to punish this nation." And He told me then, said, "If you don't want to keep doing this, you don't have to. I'm not going to hold you responsible, but if you want to, you can keep doing it, and I'll bless you if you do." And I've kept up the fight, guys. I've literally done the best that I knew how to do. I've took chances on having my channel taken down and pulled by saying specific things and doing specific things. Sometimes speaking in riddles, sometimes not. I feel like that. The Lord has told me that I really don't have to do this if I don't want to. And that hurts. It hurts to sit back and to see what's coming and have some information, and I can't talk about it. And I know there's going to be ones of you that's going to say, "Well, go over to this platform and go over to that platform." Guys, you don't understand unless you're in this line of stuff. There are no platforms to go to that AI is not watching. It's just a matter of time. All platforms are being monitored by AI. And it's just a matter of time before they start snatching them down everywhere. And they're going to be singling people out because by then they'll know who is the problem for what they're the agenda that they have before them. And I'm just not going to, Wanda and I just don't have the time to run around to all these platforms and do all this stuff because we're just trying to get ready. We think we're really prepared. Wanda and I have put forth a lot of effort to be prepared. And being prepared now is a criminal act. The country of Turkey, they have done away with their ability to use cash, and so a lot of people, there were people in Turkey who tried to hide their cash. I mean, not say hide it, but they tried to, rather than lose their cash, they tried to put it in assets, and once the government found out, they went and confiscated everything and then arrested them and told them that it was their fault as to the reason why everything was going sky high was because they ran things up by buying so much stuff, and they were arrested and lost their assets. And it's happening in America. I know of one story of a gentleman who bought up a lot of N95 masks. Now, he paid for them himself with his own money. They found out that he had them and went and took his masks from him. And he lost, and then they placed him up as a criminal. And he was charged. And guys, this is just the beginning. I mean, lots of people that are preppers, their places are being raided, all their stuff is being taken. So we are to that point that these kind of things are beginning to happen. And so we've got to be very cautious about what we do and how we do it, and we've got to try not to throw our lives out so much as we used to. I know people who are YouTubers who AI has gone back as far as 5 years, 6 years, 9 years on some people, 10 years on some people, and put strikes against them from stuff that they done way back then. And it's beginning to happen, guys. January the 5th, like we talked about, 5/7 goes globally, and I don't know how much y'all know about that, but it's not good. It's not good. Now there's two different types of 5.7. Understand that. One's not as bad, but one is very bad. I wish I could go into it and talk to you about it, but I can't. So the video today, it's not going to be for everybody. And there's going to always be those that's going to say things on here that's, it's like you're a tinfoil hat theorist and all, and that's fine. I don't really care because I know I'm in contact with people who know the truth. And I'm not watching YouTube videos. I'm not giving links because my stuff don't come from YouTube videos and links. I'm in contact with people directly. People's in positions of authority. And I found out I live in a hot zone down here. I was thinking that, I'm in a place where I shouldn't be that worried, but then I find out this week that I'm in probably one of the hottest zones that the United States has right now. As far as a place to be nuked or, because of specific things that's down here that people wouldn't think would normally be in South Mississippi because it's a southern state, and you just don't look at us as being high-tech people and all that kind of stuff, and yet the world's greatest technology in some areas lies right where I'm at down here. And that's kind of concerning, to know you're in a high vulnerable area like that, and you've put your whole life on, right here, trying to make sure you can survive here, and then you find out that one of the hot spots in the world is right here. And that's kind of concerning. But nevertheless, God has told me now, and let me find out. But, and I guess y'all can tell today, I'm a little bit uneasy, and I guess it's because I know just how close we are now. I've always known that certain things was going to happen, but I just didn't ever really. I didn't know at what point the urgency of it would actually take place. It's kind of like I talked about before when on one of my other videos with Joseph, when he interpreted the dreams for Pharaoh in Egypt. And he told him, he says, there's going to be 7 years of plenty. But then right after that, there's going to be 7 years of famine. And we've got to do this, this, and this, Well, the Pharaoh put him over everything. And we all know, if you read the scriptures there, you'll know what Joseph did and how he went about doing it. And how they eventually Egypt eventually confiscated everything, all the land and everything. Even made slaves out of the people, and the people handed themselves over because they were starving to death. Well, there had to come that day when Joseph, and I've mentioned this on a particular video a movie that I watched one time years ago, how Joseph stood on the palace steps and he looked toward the fruitful plains of the Nile River up and down through Egypt there, and as he looked, a dust storm began to come down the river on the sides of all the fields because they began to dry up, and everything went into a drought. And in the video or the movie, he looked at his son and he said, "It has begun." And they went back into the palace, and they knew that from that point forward, there'd be no more food to grow. Well, that's kind of where we're at in America today. And in the world. Let me just say this, in the world. Not just us, but in the world. We're at that point we've always talked about. We knew it was coming, kind of like the 7 years of plenty. Well, now comes the famine. Now comes the pestilences. Now comes the diseases. And yes, there is more than likely going to be another pestilence that's released upon us that this time probably won't have a cure for it. Many will perish. That's sad. Sad to think about it. None of us will be immune for it. There's no inoculation for it. I'm praying that that's not actually going to happen, but lots of resources have told me that it is going to happen. And then we're looking at, I'm going to have to speak in a riddle here, so you'll have to figure it out. Nighttime, what happens at nighttime, and cold is going to be coming upon us. It looks like they're saying pretty quickly. I don't know. We're going to see some massive blackouts to start with, and I've told y'all. I think I've said this over on Patreon. I do believe that Europe will go before we will. I believe it'll happen there first, and I'm looking for, if Europe goes, then the blackouts will begin over there. Wars will start. The uneasiness of the world will begin. And more than likely, because of the leadership of our country and the fact that God's hand's been lifted off of us, we're not going to be in a good position. Let me put it that way. If you follow the news, you'll see where Putin told us to get our nose out of the Ukraine, or he would turn us to ash. You know, I mean, that was a headline that I saw, and I was like, wow, it's a pretty bold statement right there. You know, I will turn you to ash. Well, do I think that's possible? I think it's possible. But I also think that before they would do that, they would probably EMP us and let us destroy each other. And then once chaos had become so bad over here because people had begun to destroy themselves, and then a massive part of us would just die off anyway because they weren't prepared, or they was on a machine to have life, or some sort of refrigerated medicines or something, or you know, there's just a ton of people that just would perish just simply because they didn't have any electricity. Lots of people, and what the thing that gets me is in the book of Revelation, when it talks about certain things beginning to happen, he tells the people then, he says, pray that your flight not be in the winter time. Could that be a hint? Because in past videos, I've told you, if I was going to do something, I would do it in the coldest part of the year, which would be mid-January, early February. So, I mean, if I was going to do anything, that's when I would do it. And then I look at the scripture. Scripture says, pray that your flight not be in the winter months. It doesn't stop right there. It says, pray that, I'm going to have to paraphrase it because I'm not going to use exact words. I mean, you can go look it up. It's right there in Revelation. Pray that you don't be, the women folk don't have small children that be of suck. In other words, little small infant children. Pray you don't have infant children. Pray you don't have children at that time. Small children. And that's probably because, you're not going to have anything to feed them, or you're not going to be able to, if it happens during the winter and it's extremely cold and there's no way to keep them warm, little kids will perish. And does the scripture say these things to kind of give us a warning about when something might possibly happen? I mean, I don't know. I'm not trying to say that it is the way it's going to be. I'm trying to say, are these things symbolic of the way things might be? It's quite possible. But guys, I wanted to do the video today, not as a doom and gloom video, but we're there. We're at the point, kind of like Noah was, when the Lord gathered all the animals up in front of the ark. Now you see, there's lots of things about that when the Lord gathered all those animals up. Those animals went into the ark 2 by 2 on their own. God chose the 2s and the 7s He wanted to go into that ark. And all the other animals were still out there surrounded by that ark. And you know why? To protect that ark from the people when the floods began to fall and the water began to rise. People would have took axes and picks and whatever and tried to knock holes into that ark to try to get into it. But the animals that God had gathered up there that surrounded that ark protected that ark till even they themselves drowned. That was God's plan. And guys, that's where we're at today. God is shutting the door on the time for us to get ready and to be prepared before the floods come. Now the floods I'm talking about will be financial crises, diseases, viruses, all these types of things is going to come upon us. Now not everybody will die, but there's a large portion of us, and we don't know who it will be, that will perish. So this is probably one of the last videos I'm going to be making talking about these type things. Just simply because AI has gotten smart enough now, I can't outwit them. And they may strike me for this video, I don't know. I'm hoping that I can get this one in and that AI won't really go after people hard and heavy until after the 5th, because the 5th of January is the day. So I'm hoping that I can get away with this one and just warn everybody and say, your time has ran out. It's kind of like a candle. It starts off real tall, and when it finally gets down to here, and it's just barely got a little wick left and barely got a little wax left underneath it, and then finally all of a sudden the flame just goes out. That's where we're at. Our flame is fixing to go out. So guys, I love you and I appreciate you. And Porch Time will continue. Maybe just in a little different atmosphere. Thank you guys from Deep South Homestead.